Hello, Algebra 2 students. This is Ms. Peltier, and I'm bringing you our first online lesson during our coronavirus off of school time. Hope you've enjoyed your 2 weeks off. So hopefully we can get back to some sort of normalcy as we go. We're going to do 3 lessons a week, and we'll have a video recording just like this. On my Google Drive, I'm also going to include a blank copy of the notes, as well as when I finish this lesson, I'll save the printed copy of the notes so that if you wanted to look on those, you certainly may. If you're not in my Google Classroom, let your teacher know if you want those, and they can have those as well. And you can get it off of their Google Classroom also, okay? So we are going to start with some review stuff. We're going to be reviewing quadratics. We did this before. Depending on what you did, you could have done it in different methods. So I will show you, to me, the quickest, easiest method. If you want to practice that, if you remember doing something like a window pane or something like that, you can do that. I don't prefer that, okay? But that's just a way you can do it. So when we have a quadratic, notice we have 3 terms. Remember that factors into 2 sets of parentheses. And we start with our first term and we look at its factors. So the factors of p squared are p and p. Then we look at the n number, our factors of 14. Well, with 14, sometimes your teachers have you looking at 1 times 14, 2 times 7, and you're looking at which of these will either add or subtract to give me 5. Well, to get 5 out of 1 and 14, 2 and 7, I'm going to pick 2 and 7. And then we have to determine what our signs are going to be. Now, there's lots of different ways you can do that. To me, the easiest way, what I see that helps my kids that need to see it visually, is I'm looking to get a negative 5p. And whenever we did FOIL, what gave us that middle term was when we combined like terms using our outside, which multiply together and give us a 7p, and our inside, which when they multiply together, they give us a 2p. I call this the double chin method. See how it looks like it's 2 chins? Or a double chin. So when we're looking at 7 and 2, what do my signs need to be to give me a negative 5? Well, if my 7 were negative and my 2 were positive, and I collect my like terms, I would get a negative 5. So my negative is going to go here, my positive is going to go here. We double check. 2 times negative 7 does give me a negative 14. Okay? Now, if you do that really lightly on your work, you can easily erase that, and then nobody even knows you did the double chin method. They just think that you were able to solve that on your own. Okay? Here's another fairly simple one. No leading coefficient. We like those because we know our first terms are going to be x and x. And then I'm looking for factors of 63. Well, to be 16, the factors of 63 will be 9 and 7. Using 9 and 7 to get a negative 16, looking at that double chin method, if I have a 7x and a 9x, to make that a negative 16, I need these to both be negatives. So my 9 would be negative and my 7 would be negative. And that would be your 2 factors. Okay? Now, one thing that you may notice, and your teacher may have shared with you before, that if you notice this last sign, if this sign is positive, then you know that the 2 signs that you put on the inside will be the same. And you're also going to add the 2 numbers that you had in your double chin. So they will be the same because we need to add them together to get 16. Notice when it is a minus, that's when they're going to be different. And you're going to subtract. you'd be subtracting the 7 and 2. So if that helps you, give you an idea, then that's great. When they're the same, they're going to be whatever the sign is. When they're different, the larger number is always going to get whatever the sign is. So you could use those signs as kind of a guide as well. Okay? Now let's look at some that are a little bit harder. That notice they have a leading coefficient this time. So we have more factors that we need to look at. So if we have 7x squared, we're going to have 7x and x. Then I'm looking for the factors of 20. So for me, this is where the double chin method comes in handy, because if I'm looking at factors of 20 and I look at 1 and 20, 2 and 10, no 3, 4 and 5, well, none of those will give me a 31. But don't forget, we've got this factor of 7 that we also have to take into consideration. So you could start with any factors you wanted. If you wanted to start with, let's say we did 10 here and 2 here. Well, notice when we do that, this gives me 14x, and this gives me 10x. Well, if I add 10 and 14, I get 24, and if I'm subtracting them, I'm getting further away from 31, right? So that tells me that 10 and 2 don't work. I could try switching those and putting them in a different order and do my 2 here and my 10 here, but notice that gives me 70x and 2x. That's even further apart. So sort of by a trial and error, I would know that I would want to play with my 4 and 5. So if I put my 5 here and my 4 here, well, 4 times 7 gives me 28. 5 times 1 gives me 5. Well, 28 and 5 give me 31. Well, no, that's going to give me like 33. And if I subtracted them, it would give me, I don't know, 23. So neither way is it giving me 31. So it doesn't mean we give up on those two numbers yet. Let's switch their order. So if we switch those and put our 4 here and our 5 there, and I multiply, that gives me 35x and 4x. And now because this is subtraction, I know that they're going to be different, which means I'm going to subtract these two numbers. My larger number is going to get this sign, so my 35 gets the negative and my 4 gets the positive. So my 4 would be plus and my 5 would be minus, and those would be my two factors. Okay? We keep going. I'll go a little bit faster for some of you. This time we have a 28 into the fourth plus 16 into the third minus 80n squared. So first, we hadn't really looked at it before because notice we had no common factors. But here, notice I have some things that will go into all three of these. First off, hopefully you notice the variables. I know that n squared is common in all of those. I also know that I have a 2. That if I look harder, 4 goes into 28, and into 16, and into 80. So I could take out a 4n squared. And that would leave me with 7n squared plus 4n minus 10. Now, I don't stop there. I try to factor this and see if it factors any further. Well, and don't lose your 4n squared that you pulled out to the front. Keep it with it. Now we're going to have a 7n, and we're going to have an n. And now my factors of 10, I'm back to, I need it to be a 4, so I need to play around with my factors. I'm going to put a 5 here and a 10 here. Sorry, not a 10. A 5 and a 2. And notice this gives me 14, and this gives me 5. 14 and 5 don't give me 4. So maybe those don't factor. And so that if those don't factor, then that's where we stop. Because if I switched it around and did a 2 here and a 5 here, I'm going to have a 35. That's way too big. And if I did 10 and 1, if I put a 10 here and a 1 there, that's going to give me 3. So it doesn't factor any further. So there's my factors. Okay? So don't hesitate to go further. Try it. See if it works. And as soon as it hits you that, oh, those are not going to factor, switch them around, try it again, and then see where it goes from there. Okay? All right. Our last two that we're going to factor, these look a little bit bigger. Notice we have a common factor here. My common factor is, nope, I don't have a common factor. Yeah, do I have a B? I have a B in all 3 of these. If I take a B out, do I have a 3? 3, 10, does 3 go into 87? Oh, it does. 3 goes into 87 27 times. So that gives me 10n squared minus, 29 times and plus 10. And now I could try to factor again, see if it'll go any further. Sorry, that's a B. So 5n and 2n with my 10. If I tried 5 and 2 again, remember I'm trying to get to 29. If I put 5 here, that will give me 25. And if I put a 2 here, that will give me 4. So 25 and 4 will give me 29 if they're both negatives. And so we factor. And our last one, we look for commons. Between 9, 5, and 10, there's nothing common. There's no r's that are the same. I could try doing 3r and 3r. And then with my factors of 10, maybe 5 and 2. And that's going to give me 6 and 15. That's too much to give me a 5. If I switched them and had a 2 here and a 5 there, 15 and 6, it's sort of the same. It's not hurting anything. So this actually doesn't factor. And so we're just going to write not factorable. Okay? So that's what you're going to be looking for. We do have an IXL assignment. Your IXL assignment is to do A2 I.7. And you're looking to get a SMART score of 80. A SMART score of 80. Now we will have Google Hangouts at 9, 11, 1, and 2 every day. One of the Algebra 2 teachers will be manning that session. You can go to any of our websites and find the link to log into that and join us if you have questions. When you join, make sure that you've turned your microphone off so that we don't get any feedback on everybody's microphones with their background noise, and we can make sure that we get your questions answered and everybody can hear us. If you have questions about that, reach out to either me or one of the Algebra 2 teachers. You can email any of us, and we'll be more than glad to help you out with whatever we can. So hopefully everything goes well, and keep us informed and let us know how you think. If there's any tips you have for notes, I'll be more than glad to take them. So y'all have a good day and stay safe.